Came to the States when I was about 9 years old. Life was completely different. I'm gonna call it my biggest downfall.
You've taken I Do Real Estate to a whole nother level. You represent your brand in such a good way that you're building a culture that so many people want to be a part of.
You know, I didn't have support, I didn't have certain resources. Like, you're kind of out there on your own, like you have to figure it out. Here, I want to basically create somewhere. You come here, you learn, not just to be a realtor, but you know, how to flip, how to grow your rental portfolio, how to create generational wealth for you and your family, you know, because real estate is much bigger than just being a realtor. So when I decided that I wanted to open up my own brokerage, I wanted to create a place for other agents to have the same feeling that I do.
This show exists so you can learn from those who work in silence. By amplifying their voice, they will educate us not on what they do, but how they do. Everything you will see is curated by my business partner, MGB Memory and Nick Essential Films. It would mean the world to me if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification. That way we could bring the guests that matter to you and this channel can stay running. Again, my name is Nick Essential, the owner of Nick Essential Films, and this is The Platform.
I believe I can find more happiness with your.
Before today's guest ever led teams or built companies, his life was shaped by adaptation. He came to this country as a kid, learning a new world from the ground up. Responsibility came early, paper routes before school, cleaning tables as a teenager, call centers, insurance, doing what had to be done, not what was comfortable. Life didn't move in a straight line. A situation changed his trajectory and made the traditional path unavailable. Instead of waiting for doors to reopen, he chose ownership. One property, then another, renting, learning, flipping, repeating. Years of quiet consistency, years of pressure, experience earned the hard way, long before anyone was watching. Today, that foundation has grown into leadership, into building something far bigger than himself. He now stands as the owner of I Do Real Estate, leading 55 real estate agents under one vision, one standard, and one culture. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the platform, broker and owner of I Do Real Estate, Basel.
Thank you for having me, man.
Glad to have you, brother.
Pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely glad to be sitting across from you and getting to share this time with you, because you are somebody that I've known for a couple years now. And it's only been a couple years, but in those couple of years, I've watched you elevate like crazy, right?
Thank you.
You've taken I Do Real Estate to a whole nother level. You represent your brand in such a good way that you're building a culture that so many people want to be a part of, right? And I think that's amazing. It says a lot about you. It says a lot about how you carry yourself. It says a lot about your standards. It says a lot about just you as a person overall. Because if you're trying to lead a team to do something and the person leading the team is not doing the things he says, then the team's gonna fold, right? And you're the complete opposite of that. So all those things, I feel like, obviously there's a deeper story to you. There's something that pushed you to get to this point, right? I would love to hear from you how you got to this country and how in that early stage of your life, you know, you just had to adapt. And I think you've been adapting ever since to get to the point that you're at. So
Absolutely.
Talk to me, man.
Well, I came to the States when I was about 9 years old. So I came from a third world country, so life was completely different. Like, it wasn't nothing like it is in the States. You know, I remember when we first came out here, you know, it was a shock to see how, you know, people actually lived, you know, because we lived so differently. You know, so it was very, you know, hard to adapt, even, you know, learning English. Like, I spent years in ESOL classes, you know, with with a lot of other diverse students. You know, they were also coming from all places in the world, and you know, so we all got to like kind of connect and learn more about our cultures, and you know, so I think that helped me. You know, when I actually got situated in the real world, you know, Esau really helped me out, and you know, being around other, you know, immigrants and stuff like that. So yeah, life was, you know, just different. You know, mom and dad, they were always there, but they struggled a lot, you know, working for pennies on the dollar, you know, no experience, no English. You know, they were always at work, working 2-3 jobs. You know, nobody was really around to kind of like raise us. You know what I mean? So I started, my first job was when I was 10 years old. I got a paper route.
Wow.
Because my parents at the time, like they told us, like, can't buy you anything. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to figure it out. Like, we'll give you a roof over your head. You know, we're there support. But as far as, you know, buying you stuff or anything like that, you know, you kind of have to figure it out. So the one neighbor that we had, she had put us on to, you know, paper routes. And so I got my first paper route when I was like around 10 years old. I was in 4th grade going to Trexler Middle School. So I would wake up in the morning at like 6 in the morning. I would deliver all my papers, and then I would walk to school every day. So, you know, that was different because nobody in my class had a job, you know what I mean? So I'm in there telling people I'm going to work in the morning, or I just came back from work.
That's crazy.
You know, I remember a teacher one time drove past me and saw what I was doing, and I remember he recognized me in class, like, yo, this guy just, I was watching him working this morning, you know what I mean? So just, you know, struggling from early, having to, you know, kind of figure it out. Then around 14, 15, I started working in restaurants, you know, dishwasher, cleaning tables and things like that. And then eventually, you know, worked up, as soon as I turned 18, I started getting into call centers. But that's where I started learning real estate, actually.
At the call centers?
At the call centers.
Okay.
I was working for Wachovia Bank call center. And there was a guy in there that used to do mortgages. And he had put me on. He's like, you know, at a young age, you should buy properties, you should rent them out, you know, long-term investment, you know, these kind of things.
So let me ask you this, right? Because that is probably like a pivotal moment
Correct.
in your life, right?
Correct. I never knew what it was going to set me up to.
Yeah. It's crazy because I've seen this pattern with everyone that's successful. There's always a moment that they don't realize till later, and they're like, damn, that was the moment.
Yep.
Right? So why did you believe this guy?
I didn't at first.
Okay.
You know, he convinced me a lot with it. And then, you know, after a little while, when I started referring clients to him to get mortgages and things like that, you know, it hit me that, you know, there's a whole nother world that, you know, people are investing in their, you know, rich people are, this is what they're doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I wanted to figure out a way to, you know, get into it. So I got my first mortgage when I was 20. I owned a property on Ridge Avenue, Ridge and Gordon.
Wow.
So I bought that property and I rented it out for about 2 years. And then I ended up getting another one, but I ended up living in that one instead of renting it out. So now I had a property that I'm living in. The other property is paying the mortgage on that property and my property. So I'm like 22 years old. I'm living in a 3-bedroom house for free.
Wow.
You know what I mean? At that time.
While still working towards owning an asset.
Yeah. So, you know, I still had a job at the time. You know, now I own properties. So, you know, I was comfortable. But at that point, I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, I got my house. I got my investment that's paying my house. That's all I needed at that time.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And why do you think you had that mindset then?
I think because just, you know, being a young kid, 22 years old, you're living comfortably. Now you're like, all right, I made it. You know, this is it.
It's just you at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't have no kids, no wife, no nothing. I'm living on my own. Mm-hmm. You know, at that point, it was like, you know, I'm living the dream from where I came from. Like, this is it for me. I don't need anything else, you know. As long as I go to work and I make a little couple dollars every week, every 2 weeks, I'm good. You know, I don't got a mortgage. I don't got, you know, this. So at that point, you know, I was comfortable there. Then living at that property, you know, being young and you know, I made some bad choices, and you know, those choices led to, I'm gonna call it my biggest downfall.
Okay.
Because I ended up getting into some trouble. That trouble caused me to lose my job. I wasn't able to get any more good jobs, you know, you can say. So at that point, I kind of had to figure it out a little bit, you know. So I decided to sell the house that I was living in. I was very shocked with what I made out of it, you know, because at the time I had the property for a couple years. The equity had went up, you know, the value of the property went up. So I didn't expect to make what I made off of it. So when I did that, I was like, I think I'm on to something now. You know what I'm saying?
That big check at one time, right?
Yeah, because
it's been how many years since you bought it and until you sold it?
I had it for maybe 3 years.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you learned how housing appreciates.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And, you know, the money that I had put into it, you know, I got a lot of it back and everything like that. So, you know, I was shocked. So one time I remember I was listening to the radio, and Cameron was on there, and he was talking about real estate. He was talking about buying real estate and flipping it and renting it, generational wealth and this and that. And, you know, I'm listening to him. I'm like, you know, he might be on to something here, you know?
And would you say, because like Cameron's a rapper, right?
Yeah, and you didn't expect that to come from him, you know? I thought, you know, he would be talking about, you know, drugs in the streets and things like that. But, you know, he was spitting some real game, you know? So I'm listening to it, I'm like, you know, I just sold this house, I got this money, you know, I just got out of a situation where I can't go, I'm applying at hundreds of jobs and everybody's denying me because of, you know, my situation that I had. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start buying and flipping houses. So I linked up with a friend of mine at the time. He was a realtor. Shout out Tyrone Riddick. He was my realtor for like 9 years. So I went to him. I told him, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm about to turn it up. I'm gonna turn this into something big. You know, at the time, I don't think he actually believed me too. He was just like, yeah, you know, call me. You know what I mean? But I didn't know how to fix houses. I didn't know nothing about, you know, nothing like that. So, you know, I went to my dad, who I always see fixing things around the house. Like, he's always a handyman. He just knows how to fix everything. You know what I mean? So I went to him and I was like, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start buying and flipping houses. You know, I got this money that, you know, I made from selling the house. I want to invest it. The funny thing is, my mom and dad were completely against it.
No way.
Yeah, they were like, do not. I remember my mom yelling at me like, your dad's got a good job, leave him alone. Like, he finally got this good job. We've been here for years. Like, leave him alone. Don't convince him. And, you know, they were, and my dad told me, I don't want nothing to do with it.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Like, don't include me in this, nothing. So
Okay.
I was like, damn, you know, what am I gonna do? So I went to my boy. We ended up looking at some houses. I found one, I bought it. So now, a couple days later, I go back to my dad. I'm like, yo, I need your tools. You know what I mean? Whatever tools you got. And I'm telling him I bought this house, and he was very disappointed in me. He's like, man, I told you to stay away from this. Like, it's not a good business. He ends up coming with me to see the house. And now I'm breaking numbers down to him. Like, yo, this is what I think I'm going to put into it. This is what I think I'm going to sell it. And, you know, now I start getting in his ear, like, man, you over here working 9 to 5. Well, actually, he was working the third shift. I'm like, you working at night? You don't got no life, this, and that. Yo, the next day, he quit his job.
No way.
He quit his job. And
Why?
He came to the property, and he said,
Let's do it.
let's do it.
That's what's up.
But he was like, yo, you're responsible for me now.
You my
You know what
dad?
I mean? Yeah, like you're responsible because I'm jumping in with you. You know what I mean? This is what you want to do.
I think there's a beautiful
So-
message in that, though.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is, me and my mom always laugh about it to this day. She's always like, man, I'm so happy you never listened to me. Like, you know, like the one time that you didn't listen to me is the time that, you know, it really paid off for you. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so we started, you know, flipping houses, you know, started buying houses. You know, he's helping me fix them. He's teaching me how to do it, you know. But I wasn't a realtor at the time. So now, like 9 years into it, Tyrone started telling me, like, you know, you need to get your license because now, you know, you're doing, you know, 15 houses a year. You know, I'm helping you buy and sell them. So to me, you know, that's double the sales. But he's like, you know, I love to make the money, but you know, you got something cooking right now. Like, I think you should go get your license.
Wow. That says a lot about him, too.
Yeah,
Right?
because, you know, at the
If you're
time,
doing 15 houses, he's
Yeah.
giving up a big chunk of money by telling you, yo, you should do it yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I always respected about him. And
Yeah.
I think that's why, you know, when I got into the business, I made sure that I wanted to help everybody else out because, you know, he if it wasn't for him, I probably would just be flipping houses, no real estate license. So then I became a realtor, and you know, I already had a good following from the flips. So, you know, it was easy for me to get started as a realtor. Like everybody started, you know, hitting me up to buy, sell, and all of this stuff. And then my boy Angel Rosa, who's an agent as well, he's been with me the longest. He started coming to my house every day telling me, let's start a team. And I'm like, nah, I don't want nothing to do with the team. I just want to work for myself. And he ended up coming to the brokerage that I was at the time. And he started the Basel team. He started promoting it and doing all of this stuff. And, you know, then it started, you know, getting a little bit bigger. Agents started contacting me. We went from one agent to like 6, 7 agents. And then my broker at the time put a cap on me and said, all right, no more agents. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to cap you right there. And I'm telling him.
So before you get into that, what's the difference between having a team and a brokerage? Because you were able to just start a team that basically represented you?
Yeah, so I had my team, but I still have to pay the broker
Yeah.
cut. You know what I mean? So owning a brokerage, you know, you're not paying anybody, you know, a split or fees or anything like that. Now those fees come to me now.
And in order to be a real estate agent, you have to work with a brokerage.
You have to work with a brokerage. Yeah, you can't be independent or just work on your own. You have to hang your license. So when you're a realtor, you don't actually work for somebody. You're an independent contractor and you just hang your license with a brokerage. So he capped me at like 6, 7 agents. He was like, you know, you can't have any more. And
so at that time, you were probably upset.
not upset because I had to respect his company. You know what I mean? At the time, even him, he didn't have no other agents. It was only me and, you know, the team that I had on board. So I think he didn't want the responsibility. He didn't want the, you know, of managing a lot of other agents and having to look after them. So, again, Angel was like, you know, bro, it's time to go get your broker's license and open up your own company. So I started taking my classes because the classes are a lot longer than your regular license. Your regular license, you know, 2 to 3 months, you could obtain your license. Your brokers, you need at least, you know, a year and a half. So I started taking my classes. I really didn't tell anybody because, you know, just in case if I didn't get the license or if I failed, you know, I didn't want that pressure. So I didn't tell anybody. I ended up going through all the classes, ended up getting, you know, passing my exam. And then at that point, I started a brokerage, but I didn't think it was going to go the way that it did. Like, I didn't think it was going to, you know, I didn't think it was going to blow up the way it did. I figured that, all right, me and my 7 agents can, you know, now be on our own, have our own, you know, place and things like that. But yeah, it blew up.
Well, I think, right, I see this pattern and we can go back to it where it's like there's something about you, right? Because for your friend to first tell you, hey, you shouldn't buy these 15 houses with me anymore. You should go and get your license and buy it yourself. For your other friend after that to say, hey, we need to start a team, but we need to start your team, right? All these, both of those key moments is like you have these people next to you, like just pushing you.
Yeah.
Like, yo, bro, you could be bigger than what you really are, pushing you. But there's such good people in your life that they're pushing you.
Yeah.
Right? They could have easily, that first guy could have easily said, yo, bro, let's turn it up. Let's go crazy next year. Let's do 20.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But instead, he's like, I don't know, what do you think are the values and standards that you hold yourself up to that these people can appreciate being around somebody like that?
I think it's just the genuineness and the energy that I give out. Like anybody that knows me well will tell you, like, I'm real with it. I'm you know, if you want to learn something, I'm gonna show it to you. Like I don't gatekeep. I don't look at somebody and be like, oh, well, you know what? If I teach Nick, he's gonna take away from me. He's gonna take away from, my family, my income. No, to me, this business is so big and there's so many opportunities to make money that, to me, it's I want to help people. I want to teach people. You know what I mean? And I always had that kind of energy. So I think when people get around me, they maybe notice the leadership potential, and they're like, whatever this guy does, I'm gonna follow with him. You know what I mean? I'm gonna ride out, and I think that's the culture that we got here at the brokerage now. Is we all help each other. We're like a team, but we're not a team. Like everybody's independent. But man, like the way I see some of my agents helping each other out and stuff like that, it definitely shows me that they're buying into what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things is you lead by example.
Correct.
I mean, you were a kid that at 10 years old you were working.
Correct.
My daughter's 10. That mindset is unbelievable. Yeah. My daughter, she's an amazing girl. I want her to have the best life. She's a great kid. Mm-hmm. She's a kid.
Yeah.
You was a 10-year-old kid making money before going to school.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I never met anybody like that. Yeah. That's incredible, right? Yeah. And I feel like that hard work and hustle stayed with you. It's always been in you, and it's still with you now, so that people can see that and they can be like, damn, that's a person I want to be like, or that's a person that I believe in what they believe, and they're only helping me achieve what I want to achieve. Yeah. I feel like you give off that energy about you. I feel like I Do Real Estate is yours, but it's also everybody else's. Mm-hmm. You give them a platform where they can say, I do real estate, right? That's their thing. But you got this mentor and this person that's been through the ups and downs of the game that can teach you something and save you so much time and effort in the long run by you just listening. Yep. So I think it's beautiful how you're able to flip everything you've learned and now contribute to everybody else that works with you. Mm-hmm. You have a brokerage that's 2-3 years old?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
How many years? 3?
We're going on our 3rd year.
You're going on your 3rd year. Again, I see the things that you do for everybody. I see these parties that you put together, like these events, these get-togethers, these trainings that you constantly instill, right? You hold yourself to a certain level. You're always wanting to learn more, so you also hold them to that certain level. And if they want to come in, they have all these opportunities to them, right?
Try to have as much resources for them as possible, because I remember when I worked for certain brokerages, I didn't have support. I didn't have certain resources. Like you're kind of out there on your own. Like you have to figure it out, So here I want to basically create somewhere where, you come here, you learn not just to be a realtor, but how to flip, how to grow your rental portfolio, how to create generational wealth for you and your family, because real estate is much bigger than just being a realtor. You know what I mean? Like I have people, I know doctors and lawyers and judges and all types of successful people, and they contact me like, how can I invest? how can I do this? Because they want, to be able to, make some extra money or maybe even leave their jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the thing is you're putting these people into the space where they can be their own boss and really be successful at it.
Yeah.
I'm writing something down because I love the fact that you said there's so many different categories in real estate, right? Before we get into the brokerage, I'd love to ask you some questions that could really benefit some people, right? So when you said, I teach people how to flip houses, right? Talk to me like I've never flipped a house before. What would be your advice for me to properly flip a home?
Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out how are you going to buy the property, your funding. Are you going to get a mortgage for it? Are you going to get, a hard money loan? A hard money loan is from like a private lender. Like I give hard money loans out to some people like that. You're not going through a bank. You're going through, me, basically like a private lender.
And on the other hand, the mortgage is going through
me. So I'm the mortgage now.
But I'm saying you're the private lender, right? That's one option. And the other option is getting a regular mortgage, which is
mortgage.
What is a mortgage for somebody that's never gotten a mortgage before?
Basically, you're borrowing money from the bank for a certain amount of years. You're paying an interest rate. You have to pay it monthly. If you don't pay it, they'll come take your house from you. So with the flips, you want to try to figure out how are you going to get the property? You know what I mean? Are you going to get a private investor to help you, a partner? Some people own properties and they have so much equity in their homes that just leaving it there doesn't do any good for you. So if you have a property that you purchased a couple years ago, the value is probably 100K, 200K over, and you probably don't even know what your house is actually worth. So you could take out a home equity line of credit. It's like a credit card basically against your house. And you could buy investments with it. You could buy anything with it. And, you just have to pay the money back. If you're not using it, then it doesn't cost you anything. So, I always tell people that, if you own a property and you bought a property a couple years ago, take a home equity line off of it and try to purchase more properties or buy property to flip. If you do 1 or 2 flips a year, just as a side hustle, it's extra income. There's no telling how much you can make off the flip. I've made all types of ranges before off of flips. So, but the most important thing is you have to figure out how you're going to buy it. Where's the lending coming from? Where's the money coming from? And then once you figure that out, you could either get with a real estate agent who can show you what's on the market. I really studied the sheriff sales. So that was like my bread and butter for.
What is a sheriff sale?
Well, if you don't pay your house, the sheriffs, they come, they confiscate your home for the lender, and then they auction it off at the courthouse. So, you got Northampton County, Lehigh County, Bucks County. You could go to these sheriff sales, you bid on these houses. A lot of times they're much lower than, what the actual value is. So then I'll go in there, I'll, fix it up, rehab it, and then put it right back on the market. So
for a sheriff sale, can I just walk in there without a license or anything and buy a house if I wanted to?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I could buy it directly from the sheriff's sale. Can I take out a mortgage to get a house?
No, it has to be cash or a check from like an equity line or a hard money lender. But you can't get a mortgage on it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to pay it straight. You pay 10% down at the day of the auction, and then you have a certain amount of days to bring in the rest.
But I think that is also you're saying it's beneficial there because you can get a property that may be worth $300,000 for what, 150?
Yeah, I mean I've gotten deals like that.
Okay.
A lot
That's
of
like
times,
the extreme end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of times those properties come with ugly situations because that property was lost because there was a divorce, somebody died, somebody just lost their job and went into a bad situation in life. So a lot of times those houses, they come with a lot of emotional damage. So you have to be very careful, because you're taking somebody's house that these people just lost it. There's a lot of emotions that go with it. Where when you're buying properties off the MLS, those houses are clean titles. They're, being sold for a reason. The seller is the one actually selling it. So there's no baggage that comes with it.
So let me ask you that, right? Baggage and emotional damage that can come with the house equals a financial burden on the property.
Correct.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? So like an example, like maybe I'll buy a house at a sheriff's sale and little did I know that house, like when I bought it still was in debt at a certain amount, or like what can happen in a negative way?
You got to do title searches to make sure that, they're clean titles.
And that's your responsibility as a buyer.
Correct.
It's not like they put up this house, you look at it and they're like, oh yeah, this house costs this much, but it comes with A, B, C, and D. Yeah,
and usually, no, like that stuff you could clear up with clean titles and stuff. What I mean is, like you'll have somebody that, lost a spouse in a house.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And they don't want to let the house go because, they think their spirit is still in the house. Like I remember I bought a house one time where, the guy's wife had died in the house and he wasn't trying to let it go. Like he just wanted to be in the house because he knew that she was still in there. And it's like, trying to convince him like she's not here anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
you got to like, you don't own this house anymore. You know what I mean? I own it now. So, or even kids, sometimes, they lost their parents. This is their house. They don't want to let it go. You know what I mean? So that's the emotional aspect of it. You know
okay.
What I mean? It's different than buying houses off the MLS. Usually, even when I buy a house off the sheriff's sale, the neighbors all come to me and they're like, oh, did you hear the story of how did these people lose their house? And it's like, no, I don't even want to hear it. Please.
Keep it to yourself.
I mean? Yeah. But they want to tell you,
no,
let me tell you what happened over the years. And it's like, oh, shit. Like, okay, what happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the emotional part of it. But as far as like the technical part of it, you do your title searches, you clear up whatever mortgages, liens, taxes, stuff like that backed up on it.
Okay, cool. So, all right. So you got these two routes to buy property, right? Mm-hmm. The first route is the conventional way where you can get a mortgage or you can get a private lender. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the route of sheriff sales.
Correct.
To buy a house. Is there another route or that's the two routes to get properties?
Well, you got MLS, you got sheriff sales, you got wholesalers. Those are big ones. What
is that?
A wholesaler is the ultimate hustler in real estate. You know what I mean? Those guys, they don't have a license. They don't have anything that that. Basically, what they do is they find these houses where people are like struggling to pay their mortgages. They get it under agreement. And what they do is they have a right to market it. So let's say, you're about to lose your house. You owe $100,000. I come to you and I say, hey, I'll buy your house for $100,000. And I'm going to close on it in 30, 60 days. But then what I turn around and do is I try to find an investor that will actually buy the property for maybe $130,000, $140,000. So at the time of closing, the seller is thinking they're selling me the house for $100,000, when in all reality, I'm selling it to this guy for $140,000. So I'm just a middleman now.
You just cleared $40,000.
I mean? Just cleared $40,000
wow.
in the same day.
And that's legal?
It's perfectly legal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I know they're trying to put like a lot of restrictions on it right now to try to, slow that part of the business down, but you're just not going to be able to. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I've bought a lot of properties off of wholesalers because usually they have the good deals.
So you've bought a lot of properties off the middleman?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I saw what they made, and some of them are honest. They'll tell you like, yeah, I got this under agreement for this much. I'm selling it to you for this much, but there's still a lot of room for you to make your own money off of it. So.
That's cool to see that you've actually bought houses like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so
that's what I mean. There's so many different avenues in real estate, and you don't gotta have your license, to be involved in this business. Like a wholesaler, 9 out of 10 doesn't have his license. You know what I mean? All he's doing is he's finding the right deals, and he knows so many investors, whether it's flippers, people that buy and hold, and he's able to, move these houses and make what he makes.
Okay, so we have the conventional loan, mortgage, or private lender. we have the sheriff's sale, we have the wholesaler. Do we have anything else? On how to attain a property, on how to buy a property.
Well, now again, when I say that you don't need to be a licensed agent, there is advantages to being a licensed agent, because there's a lot of times where people would call me to list their house, and I go there and it's like, well, how much do you want for it? And they tell me, and it's like, I'll just buy it. You know what I mean? So being a real estate agent does have its advantages, because, sometimes you get opportunities that you're like, this is just too good. I'm just going to buy it myself. And as long as the seller is okay with it, then, you could take off market deals.
Beautiful. So I have this property now. Took one of these routes to get the property. What's your advice for me to flip it the best way possible? Now that I own this property, I'm here. We got it. We did it.
Well, my biggest advice that I always tell people is don't fall in love with your investment. Have a budget of what you're going to do to the property. Try to stick to your budget. Try to stay under your budget, and and try to make your numbers off of it. So me, when I go into a property, I'll do a quick walkthrough. I'll know right away, all right, this is going to cost me 30 grand, 40 grand. You know what I mean? I need a new roof, HVAC system. I need to get my electrical here. I need to get this. So all of a sudden, I'll start to put together a quick budget of what I think the property is going to cost me. You got to have good contractors and good people that you work with, that you trust. Me, I've been working with some of the same people for years. So when I get a property and I send them to go look at the roof or the HVAC or the electrical, I already know what they're going to charge me, because I already know what needs to be done. So when I get an estimate from them, I'm not haggling, I'm not going back and forth. I already know the prices. You know what I mean?
And also, I think that you have that relationship with that person because you're also bringing them consistent work.
Correct.
Right? There's also a little touch in there where you are learning how to manage people, right?
Correct.
I feel like that might have been one of the beginning tastes of you not even knowing, but hey, I got this team that's been working with me on 15 flips this year. I'm responsible for managing this team, right? Which kind of elevates to now you got 55 real estate agents, right?
Because the sheetrockers can't go in until the electricians and the plumbers are done. These people can't start painting until the sheetrockers are done. You know what I mean? So you kind of like have to manage everybody in the time. It's real project management, like you got to let these people know you got to be out by Friday, because Saturday, these guys are coming in. You know what I mean? If these guys don't finish by Friday, these guys can't start Saturday. They take another job. Now you're waiting a whole week until they could come back. You know what I mean? So it's like, you got this budget and you also got this time, and you have to stick within those, perimeters.
Nice. So you got the budget, you got the time, you got the job done. You've taken this house from A to B, right? You've revamped it. You stuck to your budget. You did everything else. What's next?
List it. Now you list it with a real estate agent. You know what I mean? Now, this is the part where you'll need an actual agent, unless you find the off-market, buyer. A lot of times where I'm flipping houses, sometimes the neighbors, they want their kids to move in, and, they see what you're doing to the property. So they're like, hey, can I take a look at it? Can I buy it? Now you might get an off-market sale. You might not need an agent, but...
So what happens in that situation? What is an off-market sale? What would happen in that circumstance?
Nothing. You could sell a house without being a real estate agent.
Okay.
You don't have to be a realtor to buy and sell houses.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's plenty of times where, I've bought houses even when I had a realtor. I still bought houses by myself off market deals. You just go to a title company, you could go to an attorney, and you can have them do the paperwork.
But at that point, if you're going that route, can you still get a mortgage? Can you still get...
Well, the buyer's the one that would get a mortgage.
That's what I'm saying. The buyer can still get a mortgage and buy it directly from a person?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you just need to get with a bank or a mortgage lender, and, you could easily buy that property without any real estate help, But if that's not the case, then, you list it on the market and, you get a buyer. But again, that's where the advantage of you being an investor, being a real estate agent as well. Now I don't have to pay a realtor to list my property for me. I could just list it myself and not pay anybody commission. You know what I mean? So that was Tyrone's advice in the beginning that, yeah, I love working with you, but you're letting a lot of a lot of money off the table. You might as well go list it yourself. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I appreciated that he taught me.
So let me ask you this, which I already know the answer, but I want to ask you, right? You being the broker, the owner of the broker, you have these 55 real estate agents. Why should I buy a home with a real estate agent opposed to just buying it off market?
Well,
what are the benefits that come along with that?
Well, the knowledge, the experience, like you're going to have to go through inspections, appraisals, negotiating, you know what I mean? So I think having a realtor there is really going to help you, make the right decisions. There's plenty of times where, a client would be buying a house off market, and halfway through the deal, they're calling me or my agents, and they're like, you know what, I think I need an agent right now because, this came up in inspections, this came up in appraisals, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what should I do. So I think having a realtor there is going to give you the comfort of knowing that, the agent is watching my back. He's going to make sure I get the best deal, the best negotiation. They're going to walk me through inspections, appraisals, because once you sign that paperwork and you bought the house, now, you go back to the house and there's things that, are not looking right. There's really not much you could do at that point.
So you're paying for that peace of mind, that knowledge, that expertise. Yep. You're giving that commission because in the long run, it's going to save you money.
Correct. Especially if that agent is a very good agent and they take their job, seriously. I see some of my agents go above and beyond sometimes for their clients. And, sometimes when I'm looking through files and, I'm seeing all the changes and the negotiations that happened during this deal. And, at the end, you look at it and you're like, my client won, you know what I mean? Or our client won, and that was because of what the agent did. If that agent wasn't there, there's no telling how that deal would have worked out, if you were doing it on your own. Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that. Our client won. You didn't say my client won. You didn't say the client won. You said our client won.
Correct.
You take ownership in that, but you also take ownership with a group of people.
Correct.
Right? I do real estate is something, again, that has blown up so quickly, and I think it's because of that. It's because of the fact that you care about the bigger picture. You care about everyone as a whole. So kind of walk me through that process of, building a brokerage, building something from ground up, and just having the courage to do that as a businessman, and, little things here and there, how you come up with the name, how you structure something even out like that.
Yeah, I mean, I always had a dream of starting my own brokerage. I got a little funny story about the building that I own now. But I always wanted to be my own boss. Like I never, ever since I had that life-changing event where, I couldn't get a job anymore, I always told myself that I will never work for anybody again. I always wanted to, figure out a way that I could run my own business. And, so real estate really helped me, accomplish that. And one thing me and Matt were talking about on a little earlier was that, I feel like real estate to me is not a job anymore. It's fun stuff. Like it's like a video game. You know what I mean? And one thing Matt said is like, I feel like I unlocked all the levels. So I feel like I'm just playing a game now that is just, it's so easy to me. So everything that comes with it is easy. You know what I mean? Helping agents, helping clients, and all of that stuff is to me, it's just a game now. So when I decided that I wanted to open up my own brokerage, I wanted to create a place for other agents to have the same feeling that I do, where it's not a job anymore. It's fun. It's challenging. You're making money, but at the same time, you're having fun with it. In real estate, there's rules to advertising. So for every flyer, every card, everything that you do, you got to have the broker's logo on it. You got to have the broker's information on it. So, you know, a lot of times I even worked for certain brokerages and I'm looking at the brand and I'm like, man, I don't want to put this on my flyer. Like, you know what I mean? But I have to because, you know, I can get in trouble. So I wanted to create a name and a brokerage that shines light on the agent, not the brokerage. You know what I mean? I wanted to shine light on the agent, you know, revert the advertisement back to the agent and give them something that you know they can appreciate. So, you know, the way I came up with the name, I had just passed my broker's exam. So I knew that I was done with the brokerage that, you know, I was currently at, but I just had to figure out a name, a logo, and all of this stuff. So I remember I was at LA Fitness. I'm in the sauna. And one of my friends walks in. He's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a minute. So we're talking, you know, real estate. I'm putting him onto a lot of game. So when he left, this older gentleman that was in there, you know, he told me, he's like, yo, you're very smart. Like, you know, he was like, you just gave this guy, you know, some free game. Like, I hope he takes it. And he asked me, he's like, what do you do for a living? And I said, I do real estate. And he's like, oh, nice. He's like, you know, what do you do? And I told him I'm a realtor. I buy, I flip. I do, you know, I do it all. So then he asked me, well, who do you work for? And I was about to say the brokerage that I was at, but I was like, I just work for myself, man. I do real estate for myself. And he was like, all right, cool, you know. And he walks out. So I'm thinking about it. I'm like, damn, that's my name. And it's, you know, you're talking about yourself, you know what I mean? So, you know, it popped in my head that that's going to be the brokerage name. So I remember when I officially announced it, that, you know, this is the brokerage, I had like maybe 6 or 7 agents. Man,
You had
I had my
Basel
team.
Yeah. And they all came with you.
They all came with me.
That's awesome.
But man, I didn't think I was going to get the feedback that I got. Like, I had agents all over the place calling me like, yo, I love the name. I love the brand. I love this. Like, I want to join. Like, within a 3-4 month span, you know what I mean? I was up to like 20, 30 agents.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I had a very small office at the time. So a lot of people still doubted us because, you know, they're like, you know, they got this small office. It's a small brokerage. That's all it is. It's a gimmick. That's what people used to say. So then at that time, I was like, I have to, you know, up it a little bit and I have to go get a bigger office. I have to get, you know, something that, you know, people are going to respect me for. So when I saw the building that I own now was still available, it was on the market for a couple years, actually. It just needed a lot of work and everything like that. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go after this building, you know. And the funny thing is, about like 7 or 8 years ago, I had just started as a realtor. I pulled into that building and, you know, I walked around, I looked in the windows and I was like, man, I wish one day I could own a building like this and call it mine and be a broker. And, you know, I remember I used to drive past that building for years, like, man, somebody needs to buy it. Like, you know, so then when I ended up making the move, you know, you just look back and you're like, damn, like, there's so many times that, you know, there's things that happen in your life and you just don't realize it, that, you know, it's gonna happen. It's gonna, you know, it manifested itself. So, you know, it was just great, man.
I feel like you had that moment where you were in that building, but actually holding the keys and you just by yourself.
Yeah, like, I just didn't know, like, the keys was literally in my pocket. And then I watched that building go under agreement and then go back on the market, go on under agreement, go back on the market like 4 or 5 times. And I always used to be like, damn, it's under agreement. I wonder what they're going to do with it. And then 2-3 weeks later, it comes back on the market because inspections, this wasn't working. It needed this, it needed that. And in my mind, it's like, you know, the last time it came back on the market, I said, man, it's mine. Like, it's my calling.
All the signs were there.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, I got to make the move now. So when I made the move for the building, I think that's what kind of, like, you know, blew us up a little bit more, you know what I mean? Because now agents were hitting me up from all over the place, you know. They just wanted to come there and do content. Like, oh man, I just want to work there. I just want to do content. Like, that's what it was all about. So, you know, that was another big moment in my career.
I love that you just said that yourself, because it's something I wanted to touch on. You say, there's people that want to come here and do content, right? We are in a day and age where a real estate agent now is selling themselves through social media, right? This is my field. This is what I love. This is what I love to talk about. And it's cool how I get to talk about it with you, because we've gotten a chance to know each other and build a friendship, but our friendship started because we did business together.
Correct.
So, you hired me for a couple jobs to brand your business the right way. And I hope you were satisfied with what we did.
Yeah, very satisfied. Very satisfied.
But I love the fact that you say content. People want to come here and do content. And I think the coolest thing about what you're doing, right, is you put the brand first. Brand identity, branding yourself a certain way. You've come to realize that that is extremely important, right? That's a huge lane in this field. People are making a purchase that they typically make every 5 to 10 years if they get the chance to. So they're trusting a lot the people they meet in person, the people that guides them through that whole journey. How important would you say social media is nowadays to your business and to a real estate agent?
I think to a real estate agent, it's everything. It's everything. To me, social media is the biggest advertisement tool, and it's free. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm always on top of, everybody at the brokerage, like watch what you post, you know what I mean? Even if it's not about real estate, like if you're posting about politics or religion or your views on this and that, you're gonna lose some audience. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. Keep your opinion or your beliefs and everything to yourself, because, social media can really break you or it can make you, you know what I mean? So I tell people, advertise yourself every day. Go on there and advertise your services, because, people start to share it. People start to refer you and you get your name out there. To me, social media is the fastest way to grow your brand or your name in real estate. And even in a lot of other businesses, you know what I mean? Social media is the tool.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even with what we're doing right now, you're educating people, right? So imagine if you're able to use social media, and this is what I tell my clients all the time. Like, people are gonna follow you because, they like your product, but the moment you start to educate them, now they need you. Right? The fact that you threw in all these gems, you taught me how to flip a house, you taught me how to buy a house, you told me all these things in this conversation we're having, which is things I didn't know before this, right? Imagine a person that's on social media and all they're doing is a walk around on the house. Yeah, that's great, cool, nice walk around. I didn't buy that house, right? Whereas a real estate agent goes and he does a couple walkarounds, but now he comes back and says, hey, did you know that there's 2 ways to buy houses? You could either do a mortgage or you could do private lending. Mortgage is A, B, C, and D. Private lending is A, B, C, and D. Check back in tomorrow for more real estate tips with Nick Essential Films. Then you hit him another day with more and more tips. Now you're starting to build value in your brand. You're starting to showcase that you are educated in what you're trying to sell. So how much more do they trust you now that you've broken that barrier, you broke that wall? Now it's like wow, I know Nick. Damn, I have no choice but to go to him because I've been watching all 56 videos he posted this year, teaching me on how to buy a house. And I gave so much out that at that point, even if you go buy it with somebody else, I still taught you 90% of the things you retained. So I think it's a great way to educate people. It's a great way to build your name. I think people just need to go about it the right way, right? And I love the fact that you say, be careful and mindful of what you post. Like at the end of the day, when you become a real estate agent, you become a brand yourself. So the way you carry yourself, what you show out is what people are gonna see. And you would hate to lose a deal just because that moment you woke up angry and you wanted to say something.
My agents always get those text messages from me. I'll screenshot it, send it to them, take it down, man. Take it down. You're that. I know you're trying to get something off your chest. Fighting with your significant other on Facebook or this and that. Take all that negative stuff out. Feed your social media positive stuff. Like you said, influential stuff, and people are going to recognize it, you know. For the past 20 years, all of my leads have came off of social media, whether it's people, you know, referring me, tagging me, you know, just sharing my stuff, you know, like the other day I shared posted something and it had so many shares on it. And when I went and looked at the shares, there was like 20 people that I never even like, you know, communicated with. Like I don't even know them, but they liked my content, they shared it. And now I tapped into their sphere. Now their 1,000 followers or whatever, they know me. Now I woke up in the morning, I had 20 new friend requests. You know what I mean? These people want more content. They want to see more about the brokerage. You know what I mean? I love waking up in the morning and I see 7 agents from other brokerages sent me friend requests. Because now they want to see what's going on here. You know what I mean? They're interested. So to me now, I wake up in the morning and I was like, all right, I got to put out more good content, you know, more educational stuff, more showing people what the brand is about, you know, how we operate, you know, why it's a family culture and things like that, you know, because that attracts not only clients, but agents, you know what I mean? And to me right now, that's my goal. I want to bring in as much, you know, top agent level, you know, here to the brokerage. So, you know, we can run this town properly.
Yeah, and you can keep growing, keep elevating, keep taking I Do Real Estate to the levels that it's supposed to be at, right? I love the fact that you seem very goal-driven, and I think once you get to that finish line of a certain goal, you only see the next finish line of your next goal, right?
You know what I always tell myself? In the next year or two, somebody's gonna see me on Facebook, and that person is going to make the brokerage go nationwide. It's going to be that one person. I don't know who it is or what he does or she does or whatever, but it's going to be that one person that's going to see my stuff and my brand will go national. You know what I mean? But you just got to be patient. You got to be patient. You got to wait for your turn. You know what I mean? You got to wait for God to let it happen. And it's going to happen. Like I Do Real Estate will be in every state in the next couple years.
The fact that you positioned it that way and what you said that one person is going to help do says a lot about what you value in the people that work with you.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they don't work for you, they work with you.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
These are people that you value what they bring to the table just as much as you bringing the table.
Yeah. My agents know that my door is always open for opinions and advice. I'm not the kind of person that acts like I know it all. You know what I mean? I know it. I don't know it all. You know what I mean? So my agents are constantly coming to me with ideas or suggestions or advice. Now, I can't take everybody's advice or, you know what I mean? But I listen, you know what I mean? And I let my agents know that they're part of this brand. Like you're part of this company. You know what I mean? You're not just here to, you know, like you're working here. You know what I mean? Like I got the Vega sisters, you know what I mean? Jamie and Heidi, those are top agents here in the Lehigh Valley. You know, when they call me and they have a suggestion, I listen. You know what I mean? Like Jamie's my HR department. That's what I tell her. And I go to her sometimes with issues and it's like, you know, what do you think? You know what I mean? You know, Annie Cristomo, like she has a team now and, you know, she brings a lot of value to the brokerage, you know what I mean? Jose and Catherine, right now, they're taking over the commercial market. Like anytime you see a commercial building for sale, for lease, you see their sign, you see their pictures out there, you know what I mean? So I have a lot of amazing agents, you know what I mean? Katie Pichardo, Yanitza, Scarlett, you know, I got top agents here at the brokerage and their opinions and their suggestions, it all matters. You know what I mean? So to me, you're part of this. Like you're you know, when this company takes off, there's gonna be positions for everybody that's with me now. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make sure that they elevate themselves, you know what I mean, the same way that I'm gonna do it one day.
When this company takes off, I can't wait to see that because I'm already seeing it take off.
Yeah,
From an outsider looking in, I hear you say that and I'm like, it's already taken off.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I love the fact that you think for the future, you know how to implement these certain strategies and certain ways about your business, certain standards and values that you implement to really take it to that next level. So with that being said, I want to ask you a question that we ask all our guests when closing the segment. And that question is, where do you see yourself and I Do Real Estate 10 years from now?
10 years from now?
Yes, sir.
10 years from now? Man. Nationwide, you know what I mean? It's going to be a big brand. You know, shout out my boy Quill. When I first started this brokerage and I showed him the logo, he told me, he was like, this is going to be a major brand one day. Like, this is not just going to be, you know, your local real estate brokerage. Like, it's going to be nationwide. It's going to be something very big. You know, I predict hundreds and hundreds of offices. You know what I mean? Right now, you just got to get people to believe in you. You got to get people to buy in. But I think if we just keep growing the way we are and having that winning mentality, you know, it's gonna be big one day. You know what I mean?
I'm glad to have been able to spend this time with you. I'm glad to see the vision. You motivate me just by speaking. So it was a pleasure, and I truly mean it, to have you on the podcast today, my friend, and I thank you for your time.
Yep. Thank you so much.